This is now a certainty. In just over a day, we'll see a spectacular rocket show unlike anything in the world. So brace yourselves, because this is going to be a thrilling ride. Yesterday, which was the 15th of November, SpaceX was officially given the approval from the Federal Aviation Administration and the Fish and Wildlife Service to move ahead towards the second flight of Starship, currently targeting the morning of November 17th. How did Elon Musk react to this milestone, and what will Starship achieve for the future of SpaceX exploration? Join us as we explore these questions and more in today's episode.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of my channel.
The moment we've all been waiting for is finally here. SpaceX has been ready to launch its second Starship test flight for less than a year now, and we're going to witness history in the making. On Wednesday, November 15th, a surprise announcement was made by the Fish and Wildlife Services. The FWS determined that the rocket launch and subsequent damage to the pad infrastructure had no long-term negative effects on the surrounding ecosystem, according to the agency's report. Still, SpaceX will help mitigate damage to the area by reducing sound waves and vibrations, assisting in fire suppression and providing launch pad protection, the agency said. With this, every part needed for the FAA license is in place. The only missing stone is the signing of the FAA for the launch license modification. And not to keep us waiting for too long, right after the FWS made the announcement, the FAA officially granted permission for Elon Musk's SpaceX to launch its high-soaring Starship rocket into space for the second time. The FAA has given license authorization for the second launch of the SpaceX Starship Super Heavy vehicle, agency officials wrote in an emailed statement. The FAA determined SpaceX met all safety, environmental policy, and financial responsibility requirements. SpaceX posted on the social media platform X shortly after the green light that it was targeting Friday, November 17th for Starship's second flight test. Of course, the excitement from SpaceX's CEO Elon Musk couldn't be missed. He responded to a post on Twitter, or X.com, with excitement guaranteed, confirmed to all of us that this Starship launch is sure to shake the world with high-level stimulation. It's going to be absolutely remarkable. And I know I speak for many of us when I say that I can't wait. The scheduled launch window, lasting 2 hours, will begin at 8 a.m. Eastern. SpaceX plans to livestream the Starship launch with the webcast starting approximately half an hour before liftoff. The towering 400-foot rocket is expected to take off from the Starbase spaceport during the 2-hour launch window, just after sunrise over the Gulf Coast of Texas. The weather forecast appears favorable for a Friday morning launch, but the launch team will assess upper-level wind conditions throughout the countdown before giving the green light for liftoff. According to reports citing advice from the FAA, backup launch opportunities are scheduled for Saturday, November 18th and Sunday, November 19th. SpaceX executes its flight plan flawlessly. The Super Heavy booster will ignite 33 methane-fueled Raptor engines for over 2.5 minutes, propelling the stainless steel rocket through the atmosphere over the Gulf of Mexico. Following this, the booster will detach and attempt a controlled descent into the Gulf. Meanwhile, the upper stage of the Starship, equipped with 6 Raptor engines, will ignite to accelerate towards the necessary velocity for a stable orbit. Starship is expected to complete about 3/4 of a lap around the Earth before re-entering the atmosphere to perform a targeted landing in the Pacific Ocean north of Hawaii. This upcoming launch will be a perfect piece in the Starship's orbital conquest, following the Ship 24 and Booster 7 test campaign that ended with an explosion back in April. However, SpaceX has no intention of repeating that scenario this time. In September, Musk announced that the company had implemented over 1,000 changes to the rocket since April. These new features, some of which are substantial modifications, could pave the way for the world's largest and most powerful rocket to achieve orbit for the first time. First off, SpaceX has added a vent between the 2 stages of its rocket. This is evidence of a bold change for its next flight, hot staging. This section will redirect hot exhaust gases from the 6 engines on the upper stage away from the booster when it falls away. This addition will help Starship increase its payload capacity by about 10% and make the stacked Starship rocket slightly taller than the rocket that flew earlier this year. Next, SpaceX engineers have enhanced the shielding capabilities in the booster's engine compartment and tightened the bolts on the engine skirt to eliminate fuel leaks observed in the April launch. Changes to the Starship design before the upcoming launch. This includes transitioning from hydraulically actuated thrust vector control to electrically controlling the Super Heavy booster's 33 engines. Speaking of upgrades, the flight termination system is indispensable for Starship. In its first flight, the rocket was due to have separated from its booster, but it didn't. It was activated to explode, but everything didn't happen immediately. That system, called the Autonomous Flight Safety System, did set off explosives in the rocket, but only after an unexpected delay, SpaceX said in a statement on September 8. This abnormal behavior prompted serious scrutiny from the FAA. After that, SpaceX acknowledged the issue and took steps to address it. They have not only enhanced the AFSS, but also requalified it to enhance system reliability. Recently, they've equipped Starship with this upgraded system. Lastly, SpaceX has upgraded the launch pad for Starship in South Texas. This change aims to prevent a recurrence of damage to the launch pad observed during the first Starship launch, where concrete blocks beneath the launch pad were blown away and debris was scattered. SpaceX has decided to tweak its approach by adding what Musk called a water-cooled steel sandwich to the pad. The pad has now been fitted with two thick steel plates along with a water deluge system, essentially a gigantic upside-down shower head. The launch pad has also been reinforced with 35,300 cubic feet of high-strength concrete. This approach has raised concerns of its own, as the water used to cool the pad could constitute industrial process water, which is tightly regulated in the U.S. Generally speaking, the system at the Starship launch pad is what took federal regulatory agencies the longest time to assess during the Starship launch licensing process. The FAA completed its safety evaluation for SpaceX's new launch license application last month after SpaceX implemented 57 corrective actions to address issues from the April flight. The environmental assessment took more time to complete. Furthermore, under the Endangered Species Act, the FAA required the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to review how the new flood control system might impact sensitive wildlife in the surrounding environment near the launch site. Finally, the FAA concluded that the pre-approved environmental assessment for the first Starship test flight remains substantially valid. That there are no significant environmental changes in all pertinent conditions and requirements of the prior approval have been met or will be met in the current action. Although they've received a launch license for the second launch, it's currently only approved for a single Starship launch. So both SpaceX and the FAA will have to go through another assessments and licensing process for the third Starship test flight. The FAA is responsible for ensuring that launch and re-entry activities do not pose risks to public health and safety and property safety, and that these activities align with U.S. foreign policy and national security interests. The final step in securing a license was the completion of an environmental review by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, or the FWS for short, of upgrades to the Starship launch pad at the Boca Chica, Texas site, notably the addition of a water deluge system. That system is intended to reduce the potential for pad damage seen in the first Starship launch back in April. The FWS, in a statement earlier in the day, said that it had finalized its review and concluded our formal consultation with the FAA. The review formally started on October 19, and the agency said then that it could take up to 135 days to complete, but that it did not expect to take the full amount of time. The review found no significant environmental changes caused by the deluge system, as well as other adjustments, such as an enlarged area searched for any cultural artifacts. It concluded the findings of the original review are still substantially valid and pertinent conditions and requirements of the prior analysis and approval have been or will be met in the current action. As a result, the FAA determined SpaceX met all safety, environmental, policy, and financial responsibility requirements. The agency said in a statement on Wednesday. The launch license applies to all phases of the proposed operation, the FAA said in a statement. The consultation with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and a written evaluation of the 2022 Programmatic Environmental Assessment, the FAA concluded there are no significant environmental changes. After getting the license, SpaceX confirmed it's now targeting November 17 for the test, with a 2-hour launch window starting at 8 a.m. Eastern. CEO Elon Musk also shared, "Excitement guaranteed." The main characters for this film, Ship 25 and Booster 9, have also been res-tacked, ready for launch. The nearly 400-foot-tall rocket is scheduled to lift off from SpaceX's privately owned Starbase spaceport in South Texas during a 2-hour launch window opening at 7 a.m. Central. This Friday, shortly after sunrise on the Texas Gulf Coast. Residents of Cameron County and those in the nearby area may hear a loud noise resulting from the rocket's 33 Raptor engines firing upon ignition and as the vehicle launches towards space. But what people experience will depend on weather and other conditions, the company said in a statement. The event will be streamed live on SpaceX's website beginning 30 minutes before liftoff. Notably, November 17th isn't set in stone. Pre-launch workflow still needs to occur to ensure that Starship is ready to fly, but SpaceX is as close as ever for the Integrative Flight Test number 2. The aims of the upcoming test flight will be similar to those of the April mission. If all goes according to plan, Super Heavy will come down in the Gulf of Mexico not long after launch, and the Starship upper stage will almost reach orbital velocity before splashing down near Hawaii. But there are plenty of risks throughout the flight profile, ranging from engine reliability to the redesign of the rocket's stage separation mechanism. On its maiden flight, the Super Heavy Starship launch pad was heavily damaged. Since then, it's been reinforced and equipped with a powerful water deluge system to help deafen the acoustic shock of engine ignition. A new hot staging technique was implemented to begin firing the Starship upper stage's 6 Raptor engines while still attached to the Super Heavy first stage. The traditional technique in engine ignition after separation failed to work properly during the first flight. The Super Heavy also was equipped with a more robust electronic steering system to move or gimbal engine nozzles as needed to maintain the proper trajectory, and the rocket's self-destruct system was upgraded to make sure it would act promptly if needed. The new staging system will be put to the test about 2 minutes and 40 seconds after liftoff when the first stage engines begin shutting down after boosting the rocket out of the dense lower atmosphere. The Starship's 6 Raptors will ignite while the upper stage is still attached to the booster using a new vent system to deflect the exhaust away from the first stage. The Starship should separate from the Super Heavy moments later and continue to climb to space. In addition, to be fully reusable, the Super Heavy first stage will not be recovered. Instead, it will carry out rocket firings to slow down as if it was heading for a landing pad, but will ultimately fall tail first into the Gulf of Mexico instead. The Starship's engines meanwhile will continue firing for another 5 minutes or so, then it's expected to coast around the planet falling back into the discernible atmosphere about an hour and 20 minutes after launch. Much like the first stage, the Starship is designed to be reusable, but no recovery is planned for this initial flight test. Once again, as SpaceX sums up the countdown on the company's website, excitement guaranteed. And that's about it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. And that's all for today's update. If you enjoyed watching and found it useful, please make sure to subscribe to channel and hit the like button. Join this channel to get access to perks. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. By the way, are you familiar TalkTalk Philippines app? TalkTalk is a delivery service app designed to connect more people by delivering items door to door. For more information, download the TalkTalk app, here down below.